Yo, what's going on everyone? Guiding Light here, and in this video, I'm going to show you guys how you can defeat the 100-eyed master. Now, in this video, I'm going to try to make this strategy as simple as possible, but before we get into the boss fight, I want to show you the gear I'm running. So I do have on this gold spike plate, which increases my defense, and I have on the See No Evil headgear, which helps with my perfect dodging. There's also a quick look at my build. If you guys have been stuck on this for a while, you know that the second phase is actually going to strip down your stamina, and you probably won't have very much mana left either by that point in the fight. There's also going to take away the ability to transform, so that's why I decided to go with this build. Took all my points out of the transformation, all my points out of the things that are basically useless in this fight, and slotted in the things that were more important. Also went and got the Spider Celestial Staff, which you should be able to craft, and I'm running the No Pure Armor as well. Now, what made the biggest difference for me in this fight was this back scratcher attachment. Before I had this on, the fight was almost impossible, but this gives you a massive boost to your stamina. In the second phase of the boss fight, your stamina will be cut in half. This is going to make it extremely hard to dodge and attack, and I found myself running out of stamina, and that was actually what made the fight so difficult. Now, with this attachment, it made the fight much easier, and after putting it on, I was actually able to beat the boss within the first 30 minutes after being stuck on it for around 6 hours. So I highly suggest putting this on. It's up to you whether or not you want to or not, but I just figured I'd let you know that that definitely made a huge difference for me. One thing I did put on, you don't have to copy it, is these legs. Now, it's going to actually take away quite a bit of your defense, but what it does is it says after performing 3 consecutive perfect dodges, you have a chance at getting back the mana. This can help a little bit, but I don't think it's really all that necessary if you follow the strategy I'll show you for the boss fight. Now, this boss is definitely pretty tough to beat, but once you learn his attacks and the timing on dodging him, it definitely will become simpler. So that's the first thing you have to do. Now, from there, you really have to work on managing your stamina and your mana during this fight. That was the biggest downside to this fight. Now, the first phase, you can just go and stun him at the start of the fight. That's the only spell that I used to try to conserve mana. I didn't use any other spells. From there, after stunning him, I went and did 2 or 3 light attack combos. Now, the light attack combo can stagger him a bit, but not too much. Now, in between your attacks, you can dodge most of his swings, but your timing has to be very, very good. I do believe that perfect timing headgear, though, helps a bit with this fight, and that's why I put it on, because you have to do so many dodges in this fight at the perfect time to even try to get out of them. So as you can see, as I can, I'm getting in light attack combos, and I'm dealing damage where I can. Anytime he's staggered, I try to take advantage of it and get in another combo. The biggest part that I found with the beginning portion of this boss, like the first phase, is you want to try to stay as far behind him as you can. I find it's easier to get attacks to land on the backside of him than it is when you're in front. And then when he goes to attack you, it's easier to actually go and dodge as well. Now, once you get about 40 to 50% of his health down, he is going to burrow himself and he's going to come at you with this incredibly strong attack. Now, you can dodge it, but it's extremely difficult. And even after the multiple attempts, I've only managed to dodge it once or twice. Now, after this, I did use my first healing potion and I popped my transformation as well. The reason why I waited so long to pop my transformation is because the second portion of this first phase, like after he burrows, his attack pattern is going to change. He'll become more aggressive and he's going to start to pop these spells. Now, you can dodge these attacks without the transformation and still continue to do damage, but I find it's better just to pop the transformation. Now, when you're in this transformation, you want to pop this heavy attack combo. Once you do this, it's going to go into another phase where he's going to burrow again. You want to try and dodge these as you can. He'll end up throwing his sword at you, and you can dodge this attack when it comes in. He'll then teleport to his body as well, so you want to stay as far away from that as possible. Now, when he comes out of this attack, continue to be on your guard and try to keep your distance until he comes at you. Now, once he comes at you, you can dodge his attacks, get behind him, and begin your combos again. Now, as his attacks begin to come in, you want to try and dodge them as you can, but because you're behind him, it should take a little bit longer for those attacks to come through. Now, because we're in the second portion of this first phase, he's going to start with these spells I was talking about, but we're just going to follow the same method. You want to basically try to run a circle around him. Every time you dodge, just dodge to the left and continue around his body so you can try to work your way to the backside. Now, as you can see, I'm following that strategy. It's not going to work perfectly every time. And anytime I do finally get my combo to fully hit, I'll stagger him and try to back it up with a second combo. Now, the key to this is to not really get too greedy. If you think he's going to attack, just back off. Don't try to finish out your combos. Just get the attacks in that you can. Now, you could choose to use your spells as well, but I really, really suggest you don't use your spells. This way you have extra mana left over in the second portion of the fight. Key to this first phase of the fight is to get his health bar in between the M and the A in his last name. Once this happens, it's going to trigger the second portion of the fight, and you won't be able to do any damage output. One thing that you do want to make sure to do is when you get into the second portion of the fight, you must have mana left over for this strategy to work. So as you can see, we're just continuing on with this first strategy. You want to try, if you stagger him, get your light attack combos in, do the damage when you can, try not to get too greedy. Now, when his attacks come down, you can roll underneath them throughout this entire first phase, and you're just going to kind of rinse and repeat that method of doing damage, rolling under his attacks, trying to stay behind him as you can. Now, occasionally he's going to burrow himself. I got a little bit lucky. He only burrowed once during this fight, and the key to that is to stay as aggressive as you can during the first phase. The closer you are to him, and the more attacks you land, the lesser chance of him going into some of his other attacks, which are a lot harder to dodge. Now, eventually, like I said, his health bar is going to get between the M and the A. He's going to go into his second phase. Once this happens, go as far away from him as you can. The reason for this is because he's going to come at you with 3 attacks right after he transforms. If you're as far away from him as possible, it's a lot easier to dodge his attacks. Now, I ended up getting hit because for whatever reason I was not locked onto him. Make sure that you're locked onto the boss because my camera angle screwed me up really bad there and I was not able to turn. Now, as soon as he transforms after the cutscene, he's going to come at you with an attack guaranteed. So immediately back up, roll, and then heal up. Now, because we have stamina left over, we're going to immediately begin to rely on this decoy or this cloud step spell. This is extremely important during the second phase of the fight. Once you pop the decoy, make sure that the boss does an attack on the decoy first, and then go in and start doing the same combo as you did in the first phase. Now, this portion of the fight becomes more of a fight against your stamina bar than it really does against the boss. All you really have to do against this portion of the boss is dodge all of his attacks, and eventually he's going to come at you with a heavy attack. That heavy attack, once dodged perfectly, it will actually stun the boss. So if you go into the second phase and you immediately pop your clone, you can get in a couple combos and dodge his attacks the same as the first phase. Wait it out, and eventually he's going to do this heavy attack. Once he does this, he'll be stunned for about 10 seconds, and you can get in a few more combos. Now, the key to the second phase that I found after multiple attempts is to, again, try to stay really, really close to him. You don't want to be like underneath him, but you just want to be really like within a couple meters of his body. If you start to back up, he's going to change his attack pattern and start to do other attacks that are much more difficult to dodge. If you stay up close, you can dodge most of his stuff. He's going to eventually transform and create this yellow dome. What you want to do is look out for this little beam that's going to pop up in front of him. Once it flashes, right after it flashes, you want to go ahead and pop your dodges at the exact same time. Now, this took me a few tries to learn, but it's very important, I think, to learn how to dodge most of his attacks in this fight. The reason why you want to get the timing down and the dodging down mostly on this fight is because once you do get the dodging down, you're actually able to keep a good flow in where you can finally get hits in. If you're not dodging his attacks, you then have to pop healing potions and get your timing back, and before you know it, it's going to be really tough to even try to get attacks on the boss at all. The first couple runs, just learn the timing of the dodging, and this will help quite a bit. As you can see, we haven't really used too many healing potions, and we're pretty much still good altogether on everything. Now, we're out of mana at this point, which can be a downside, but that's why you just really have to focus on dodging most of his attacks at this point. So we're just continuing to dodge around his attacks. When he creates openings, they're not going to be very big, but so that's why you want to wait it out for when he does finally stun himself. This is when you can get the biggest combos in and take down 10% of his health all at once. Now, because he drains your stamina bar, he cuts your stamina bar in half, you don't really have very much, and that's why we run those armor pieces. That's made the biggest difference for me. Before I had the stamina boost on my armor, this second phase of the fight was almost impossible for me because I would eventually run out of stamina, and I could never seem to deal damage. Now, eventually, once you get his health low enough, he will pop you with these lightning bolts. It's the same thing. He's going to flash a little beam on top of your body, and you want to just dodge after it. After that, when you come out of that phase, double check your health, make sure you're good. And what you want to do is continue just dodging his attacks and wait for him to create openings. Now, remember to stay kind of close to the boss. Occasionally, he'll pop that dome attack again, but that dome attack actually can be seen as an advantage because you can get behind him. You can sort of follow the same tips we used in the first phase, but keep in mind during the second phase of the fight, it's more so about dodging than it is about attacking. You're not really going to have all that many openings, and so you just want to focus on dodging as many attacks as you can. Now, this definitely took me a few tries to master, but eventually I got the timing down of all of his attacks, and I didn't really have to worry too much about taking damage. Now, it definitely takes a while, and this fight will be drawn out longer than it needs to be, but when the openings are there, you want to try to get 1 or 2 attacks in. If you have time, finish out your combos, but if you don't, just go back to rolling and wait for him to do his heavy slam so that you can get in a full combo. Now get in the combos that you can and continue to dodge the attacks, and you really just need to bide your time here at this point. Now, I did not use any potions during this fight. If you want to go into this fight with certain potions, you could, maybe to increase your mana. That would actually help quite a bit so that you could actually use your spells during the second phase and stun him up. But I just never really used potions in this game. Eventually, once you get his health low enough, he's going to pop a separate attack. You need to try to dodge out of this yellow beam that's going to charge up. At the end of the charge, you want to roll at the right time to get out of that little spread attack that comes out. Now, right after the spread attack, he's always going to follow it up with a heavy attack as well, so you always need to be ready to dodge that. That's why I was saying this really is more of a fight of just dodging. It's really not, the damage output part is really not hard. It's really about just dodging all of his attacks, because eventually he's going to stun himself, and you can just finish him out that way. Now, like, occasionally I will get a few hits in, but it's really almost not even worth it because you can only get 1 or 2 hits in before you have to go back to dodging. So when you can, try to get your combos in. Now that's pretty much it for this boss fight, guys. It definitely was tough. It took me a little while to beat it. I'm hoping these tips and tricks help you guys out to beat it. If it does, be sure to drop a like down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.